Frosties, it's Prepatch time. In this video, I will give you a full talent rundown. Though you need to bear in mind that it's pre-patch. Not only is everything subject to change until release, but because most of Shadowlands' borrowed power is still enabled, and some specs capstones, for example, are current legendaries, it will affect your choices now and not on release. The big brain theory crafter's sole focus is on Dragonflight and not using up precious resources on the pre-patch. So for now, let's go through what we have so far. Everything in this video is sourced from the Arcane Mage Discord. Toe Grinder has been working tirelessly coding his fancy new Mage Hub. Links in the description below. Bookmark this site immediately as it's going to be your one-stop shop for all things Mage going forward. It contains the most accurate sims for things like trinkets, talents and races. But more importantly, it contains the official guides, trusted video guides and point of view videos. Basically, everything you could ever need. For new and returning players, the Dragonflight pre-patch event will provide some catch-up gear at 252 item level. Earn currency through participating to purchase the gear, or just loot it from the elemental invasion bosses. The new wing of Alderman, Legacy of Tyr, is also opening on pre-patch, which will drop item level 278 gear. Mythic Plus and Raiding are still open for gearing options. Those still needing portals or the Keystone Master Mount, don't worry, you can still earn them. Our class tier sets will be disabled during the pre-patch, so you won't need to worry about acquiring or juggling them. Do not listen to any guide that talks about stat values or tells you to get a certain percentage of a stat. That's not how stats work anymore. Individual stats and stat percentages are an outdated way of thinking about the game and haven't been relevant for over 10 years at this point. The reality is that the stats for Mage all work off of each other nicely. For example, Fire has no stat breakpoints, no hard caps, and no specific stat percentages to aim for. Due to the large intellect stat budget on items, item level will be an upgrade most of the time, regardless of stats. Ultimately, the only way to accurately tell what gear is an upgrade for your character is to sim via Raidbot's top gear. Equip whatever the sim tells you is an upgrade without a single thought on your exact stat values. For raiding, your Fire talent setup will look like this. In a raiding environment, defensives, throughput, and mobility are the recommended priority. Overflowing Energy, Rune of Power, Tome of Ronin, and Tome of Antonidas are all easily accessible throughput traits and should always be taken. Side note, Ice Nova is a very minor throughput trait. As for the capstones, you can access two. Currently, Meteor is tuned weekly and should never be taken. Shifting Power should always be taken. Temporal Warp is slightly stronger than Time Anomaly, however, it requires an early lust in order to gain full effectiveness. So in situations with a later lust, you would get little use out of Temporal Warp, and you can happily take Time Anomaly. It's worth noting, however, that even a late Bloodlust, Temporal Warp can still be useful if the fight really needs the DPS at that point. Moving over to the Fire Spectre, your first 8 points will look like this. For the next section, Critical Mass, Flame On, Combustion, Firemind, Improved Combustion, and Feel the Burn are currently all numerically more powerful than the other options here. If you want to take your Cheat Death Cauterize, remove a point from Firemind. The last 2 points are situational. Points from Into the Ashes and Call of the Sun King are numerically more powerful. The other option is 2 points in Improved Scorch. The current iteration of this talent is extremely weak, so this should only be taken if you desperately need the execute damage. Moving forward, Pyroclasm, Kindling, and Master of Flame are all extremely strong. Always take the Sun King's Blessing route. It is by far the strongest capstone trait. Seeing as in pre-patch you have Sun King's Blessing already through your Shadowlands legendary, Hypothermia is the strongest route on single target, while Fiery Rush is the strongest route on cleave and AoE. The last point depends on availability, the priority being Feathered Incantation first, then Firemind, and Wildfire being last. For Mythic Plus, your talent setup will look like this. In dungeons, throughput, defensives, and active utility are prioritised. Overflowing Energy, Rune of Power, Tome of Ronin, Ice Nova, and Tome of Antonidas are easily accessible throughput traits and should always be taken. As for capstones, current meteor is weak and should never be taken. Shifting power should always be taken, and temporal warp is much stronger than time anomaly. Going into the fire specific tree, flame strike is currently weaker than ignite for most target counts. Though it can take over at very high target counts, we simply don't have the points spare. Critical Mass, Flame On, Combustion, Firemind, Improved Combustion, and Feel the Burn are all numerically the most powerful options. If you want to take your cheat death, Cauterize, take 1 point from Firemind. For the last two options, Improved Scorch is extremely weak, and From the Ashes and Call of the Sun King are a lot stronger. From the Ashes is currently numerically more powerful than Alexstrasza's Fury due to our preference for ignite damage. Next, always spec Pyroclasm, Kindling, and Master of Flame. Even on AoE, Pyroclasm remains strong due to its contribution to ignite. Lastly, Sun King's Blessing and Fiery Rush are both strong on multiple targets due to the reliance on Combustion, Feel the Burn, and Ignite to deal cleave and AoE damage. It's recommended to put your last point into Feathered Incantation. In Prepatch, you have Sun King's Blessing already through your Shadowlands legendary, and you don't have the maximum amount of points until you're level 17 Dragonflight, so for now, you can just talent the Fiery Rush. Fire being a burst damage profile, Combustion is your main source of DPS. You need to ensure you maximise your damage in this window, so to do this, it requires a small amount of setup and practice from newer players to make the Combustion window muscle memory. Your goal in Combustion is to chain instant casts through Fire Blast and Phoenix Flames to try and fit as many Hot Streak Pyroblasts into your Combustion window as possible. There is no magic number here, just as many as you can. You alternate between Fire Blast and Phoenix Flames to maintain your talent Feel the Burn. You want to enter your Combustion with at least 2 charges of Fire Blast and Phoenix Flames. Though if you're lacking in charges, you should cast a Scorch as a filler. For more intricate rotation detail, please refer to Togrinder's written fire guide on his Mage Hub website. In AoE, fire is going back to how it played in BFA with Masterful Corruptions. Yay! With Ignite being a hard hitter. Ignite is a percentage of your damage spread from your primary target to nearby targets in the form of a dot, which stands for damage over time. It spreads through casting Fire Blast. The idea is to pump as much damage as you can via your Combustion window into a primary target, and let your damage spread from that target and melt everything around it. Therefore, your AoE rotation will be the same as single target. Just make sure you pick a mob with the highest amount of HP so it can survive your combust and live long enough to spread your ignite. Flame Strike provides more overall damage if targets die at the same time, which isn't practically that common. It also provides more damage at very high target counts. Think MDI style pulls, which, let's face it, most of the community doesn't experience on live. If you do have Flame Strike talented, then your AoE combust rotation would replace spending Hot Streaks on Pyroblast with Flame Strike. Remember that Flame Strike does not contribute to Hot Streak, so during combustion you will need to cast 2 spells to gain a Hot Streak instead of 1. Moving on to Frost. Frost drew a little bit of a short straw for Prepatch. There's a rough situation with Icy Propulsion being your best conduit, but being forced to take the talent Icy Propulsion in order to progress the tree. Whether they overlap, well, we shall see. Your raid talents will look like this. In the spec tree, there is no choice with the first 10 talents. They are all required to make the spec function or provide a path. Moving forward, Water Elemental is an extremely powerful talent. Unfortunately, it competes against Lonely Winter, which is one of the best talents in the entire tree. Frozen Touch is numerically stronger than Ebon Bolt in all situations. Now we just progress towards Icy Veins on the left and Hailstones on the right. In this patch, Icicles are very strong, and so progressing through these talents are all very synergistic. Because Icicles are so strong, Mastery is now extremely valuable for Frost. Frost capstones are not very competitive. Progress towards Freezing Winds and Thermal Void. Pick up Slick Ice as well. The last point is situational. Ice Caller is taken on any fight with adds, and Deep Shatter is taken on pure single target. For Mythic Plus, your Frost setup will look like this. In the spec tree, you want to try and grab everything that buffs Frozen Orb, Blizzard, and Icicles. Route towards Icy Veins through Ice Caller and Snowstorm. You can take Wintertide instead of Snowstorm for more single target damage. Because icicles are so strong this patch, progress towards hailstones through piercing cold, bone chilling, flash freeze, splintering cold, and splitting ice, which are all super synergistic with your icicles. Progressing towards freezing winds and thermal void through icy propulsion, snap freeze, and chain reaction. Freezing rain can be taken for more AoE damage, though slick ice is recommended for more single target. Frost's main rotation centers around gaining and managing your instant cast procs, Brain Freeze, and Fingers of Frost. Frostbolt is your filler spell to generate procs. A Finger of Frost proc empowers your Ice Lance, making it deal bonus damage as if the target is frozen. Brain Freeze refunds a charge of Flurry and increases the damage of your next Flurry by 50%. Flurry applies a debuff to the target called Winter's Chill, causing your next 2 spells to deal damage as if the target is frozen. Basically, 2 free Ice Lance procs after a Flurry. You also want to cast a Frostbolt before you use Flurry, because the Flurry projectile is faster than the Frostbolt, so it will hit the target first, causing your Frostbolt to shatter. And because Flurry hits the target 3 times, the Winter's Chill debuff on the target will refresh, meaning you still get the 2 free Ice Lance procs after. As for managing your procs, always try to prioritize using Ice Lance procs before Brain Freeze procs to avoid proc munching, unless you are already casting Frostbolt. In that case, you finish the cast and use Flurry and Ice Lance as normal. This is because a Flurry proc is significantly more damage than an Ice Lance proc, and you don't want to miss out on a new Brain Freeze proc chance. As for cooldown and general spell usage, the rule of thumb is to send everything on cooldown. After Flurry, you can use Meteor or Comet Storm if available, because they benefit from Winter's Chill, causing them to deal extra damage without actually using up the Winter's Chill stacks. In AoE, very little changes for Frost. This is because a large part of your AoE damage comes from Blizzard and Frozen Orb. In terms of rotational changes, Blizzard is cast at 2+ targets. For the Giga Chad mages among us playing the superior mage spec, I'm sorry to say that at this moment, Arcane has been super tricky and needs more time before anything can be definitively said. It would be disingenuous of me to suggest anything at this point. Just know that the amazing math magicians are working on it, though it's looking likely that Arcane will not be properly finalised until the expansion releases, which, to be honest, is how you should treat all specs in the game, not just Arcane. In the meantime, keep your eyes peeled on ToeGrinder's new Mage Hub linked below. His Arcane guide should drop within the next couple of days. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped. Please remember that it's pre-patch, everything is subject to change, and the numerical tuning is not set in stone. What spec are you looking forward to in Dragonflight? Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel, I'd really appreciate it. Also, please don't forget to bookmark ToeGrinder's Mage Hub website linked below. It will be your go-to for all things mage. See you in the Dragon Isles. Bye bye!